mortal being, and it's man. The thing on the outside, it dies, it matures, it withers, and vanishes. But that immortal you, which is man, cannot die. It simply reproduces a garment just like this, young, through the seed of contemplative thought. It contemplates itself as what it knows itself to be, or knew itself to be, and it appears once more in your clothes in a garment, in a world just like this. Then what is it all about then? The whole vast world is waiting for the awakening of this inner man that is God. The inner man is your own wonderful human imagination. And the whole world aches for the awakening of the imagination, which I may tell you is a spiritual event, which event crowns and redeems the experiences of man in this world of death. For everything here dies. But you will be crowned in the most literal sense of the word when man awakens from this dream. Let me share with you a letter of a little girl. She's only 8. Her mother isn't here tonight. She gave me the letter last Monday night, which I read when I went home. She starts the letter, and she dated it last Monday, December the 7th. To Dear Neville, guess what? I had another dream about you. You took me on an airplane to France. When we got off at the airport, the people yelled, Neville, oh Neville, has come to see the king again. And so, as we went through the club, they yelled the same thing again. Neville has come to see the king. And I was frightened. So I held you by the hand, and I held it so tight. And you led me up to a huge big hall. As we entered the hall, at the end of the hall, there was the king, seated on his throne. So we went up to the king. As we got up to the king, it was you, Neville, seated on the throne. Yes, you were holding my hand, she said. As I looked at the king, he on a throne, a red cape, and the back of the throne reached to the ceiling. And the whole thing was covered in red velvet. I looked back at you to see the resemblance between you and the king. And as I looked back to see you, you began to fade. And you faded. And as you faded, the king said to me, come nearer. And so I went up and I held his hand just as tight as I held yours. But of course, he was you. And then, you know what? He faded too. And as he faded, I found myself safely at home. And that's how the dream went. Love, and then she signs her name. What a heavenly vision for the child of 8, and how beautifully expressed. I had not added one word to her letter. I had memorized it. I have told you exactly how she wrote it in her own wonderful child's hand in the script. She's a beautiful child. She too has the incurrent eyes that her mother has. Eyes that are turned inward into the world of thought, into eternity, ever expanding in the bosom of God, the human imagination. So I led her up to where the king was seated on his throne, and she saw me. I led her mother up to where the king was sleeping. And then the mother saw the face, which was my face, become translucent. And then she saw her own face, for that's what the king is wearing. He wears every face in the world. There's only one God. There's only one God dreaming every being in the world. And he wears the face of everyone in the world. I have had the experience, so I've told you I'll take you to the king. In the beginning you will see me, but she's only a child of 8. She said, oh, I held his hand, just as tight as yours. But of course, said she, he was you. Her mother saw me in the reclining state, but then the face became translucent, and then the mother saw her own face, was the face of the dreamer. He is dreaming in you, and the being dreaming in you is God, the immortal man. God is man, and dwells in us, and we in him. The eternal body of God is the human imagination, and that is God himself, named in Scripture when awake as Jesus Christ. So when we are told in Scripture, do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you? Answer honestly to yourself, do you really realize it? If he is in me, then who is he? I'm telling you who he is. He is your imagination. That is the immortal man that cannot die. That's the immortal man that is crucified on this. And on this crucifixion, which is man here now, crucifixion leads to exaltation to God. By the crucifixion, by wearing this garment of flesh and blood, man is exalted to God the Father. He actually awakens and he is God the Father. But now tonight we're going to show you how we go about turning the hope that if it is deferred makes the heart sad. And how to turn it now into a desire fulfilled. And this is how I do it. I stand here, and without the aid of anyone, without the consent of anyone, I first formulate in my own mind's eye what I would like in my world. What would I like? I ask no one if it's good for me. I trust my own judgment. It's what I want. Now, if I had it, how would I see the world? How would I see it? Well, that's how I would see it. How? Well, my wife would know it first. Of all the people who know me, I would share with her any good fortune that befell me. I would tell her, so she would know it. And to my wife, my daughter would know it, and eventually my first would know it. I don't have to go too far. I can take a small circle. Take my wife, my daughter, a few friends, and then discuss the good fortune that has befallen me. And mentally I see them as I would have to see them if it were true. I listen to them just as though I am hearing them. Their idols have mouths, but they do not speak. My mouths are going to speak. They have eyes, but they do not see. My eyes are going to see. They have hands, but they do not feel. Mine are going to feel. They have feet, but they do not walk. Mine are going to walk. So I take all these things in that 115 Psalm, and then I make my God alive, not a dead idol. So I hear my wife's voice. I hear my daughter's voice. I hear my friend's voice, so they do speak. And then I hear them and see them move. They hear me because they can respond to what I'm saying. They couldn't respond if they hadn't heard it, so now they hear me. And everything becomes alive in my mind, that's all, or in my imagination. And then when I see the entire thing and it's done, as far as I'm concerned, the whole thing is done. I drop it in absolute confidence that it must come to pass. The vision now has its own appointed hour, and it ripens and it will flower. If to me, in this world of Caesar, it seemed long, then you wait, for it is sure and it will not be late. That is the story of Scripture as you read it in the 2nd chapter of Habakkuk. It's a translation that you will not find in the King James or the Revised Standard Version. But Moffat has it. James Moffat has it in his wonderful translation of the Bible. That's the most literal translation of the original Hebrew. The vision will ripen, just wait. So here, what would I do were I you? Well, first of all, I ask myself, what do I want to be?